Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversations this morning, but we are switching gears to what's been happening at our schools. And we've been seeing in Tobago, even and in Trinidad, throughout, there is this growing culture among our students of increased violence. And while, we know that students, sometimes get into little tussles with each other. I mean, sometimes it is part of growing up, but it seems as though these incidents are getting more and more violent. And to give us a perspective on what is our next step as a society, I am being joined by the head of the Special Victims Unit for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Services, and that is Officer Dexter Miller. So good morning and welcome to you, Officer Miller. How are you doing this morning?
Morning, Kandace. I'm doing fine.
All right. So now we're seeing what's been happening in our schools, and from the police perspective, what is your view on how things are unfolding these days?
Well, Kandace, school violence, as we know, it's been highlighted and perpetrated, and it's prevalent in all schools throughout Trinidad and Tobago. There were stakeholders meeting just last night at the Signal Hill Comprehensive School involving children issues. The minister was there, Ms. Shampa Kojo, the TTPS, the Children's Court, Dr. Henry Benjamin, the principal of the school, Ms. Ford, and other stakeholder representatives. Parents and students were also present. The situation is one where we have to come together to treat with. It is not an isolated situation. There are factors that contribute to the situation, and some of those were discussed last night. Coming back to the issues at hand, what is happening with these children? The home has a part to play, the social media has a part to play, the society has a role to play. We are seeing, when we look at these videos, the children are expressing a level of violence. But here it is, we are asking, where are the adults, where are the teachers, where the security guard on the compound? It's not just the man the gate, they have a responsibility to the entire estate once they are there. We will observe that the cheerleading, so to speak, in the situations encourages and fuels the act, rather than, I know in my time going to school, we'd have separated fights.
Yes. You might get a 1 or 2 cuff in, but as a student body, we used to pull them apart.
Yes. So you see the cheerleading encourages and spurs on the situation for it to even go further than where it really should. Now, you would have that. You would have little meeting of physical in school. It's not nothing new. People come from different homes, different backgrounds. They're lashing out. They're expressing themselves in different forms and forums. Kandace, the stakeholders need to come together. Education, TTPS, Children's Court, the rehabilitative centers, we need to come together and work out a program that not only treats with students, but treats with parents. Kandace, you know that some parents have challenges.
Yes.
There are a lot of parents need support. There are parents that cannot cope with some of their children in the household, and they don't know where to turn, who to go to, how to treat with the situation. You see, for example, you might be tech-savvy with your devices. Parents not on par. Some of them don't even have the slightest clue as to how to treat the devices. So here it is, they cannot cope with somebody where the children have now, that they are learning from the outside influences. The children are running rings around the parents, so to speak, but to no fault of theirs. But where's that support for parents? So we recognize that we need parent forums. We need forums that parents need to come and sit and seek advice and ask questions and get support. The Division of Social Services has a support system for parents under Mrs. John up at Social Services, Glen Road. The Children's Court is now doing public education with children issues that would assist. The TTPS continue to use the school intervention unit in Tobago to visit the institutions, lectures, keep forum with principals, teachers, educators, student support officers, and going as much as we can in our relationship with the stakeholders to treat with the issues of the children. The system must not only be punitive, we must also seek to rehabilitate, support, and help these children. The Center Up at Hope, the LRC, I believe that the program should be restructured. Here it is, the children are doing academic subjects at the institutions. Something happens to them, they are suspended. They are sent to the center, but they continue to do academic subjects at the center. The center, my opinion, should be one that does restorative, psychosocial, intervention, even go as far as to go into the home, possibly, together with the other agencies to see what is the root cause of the problem that affecting these children.
Do you think that there's a breakdown in our society at this point in time in terms of even how we treat with the family and how the family intertwines with the rest of society, that whole loss of the ideology that it takes a village to raise a child?
There is a breakdown. Kandace, in the years gone by, the neighbor could have speak to your child. The neighbor could have corrected your child. The teacher could have corrected. There's a lack of loss of respect in the society that fuels the situation too. You can no longer speak to the neighbor's child sometimes based on what you have to talk to them about. The neighbor will come at you. And let me say this frankly, parents also adds support or fuel to their child when the child does something wrong and fails to correct the child. Or the teacher does something to the child in school, you go to the school and you cuss out the teacher and you want to fight with the teacher. What does that say to your child? We see a lot of social media posts where parents are involved in fights with school children. How? When? How we reach to that? The family has broken down. Long time grandmother and grandfather and the matriarch of the family would have helped. Now, the age of the grandmother is almost as the mom. We are not blaming the individual, but that is part of the breakdown that has caused it.
And in terms of the police interaction with some of these students, what is the level of respect that you're able to get from them? Give us some insight as to what happens when you approach a student that might be, doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Well, again, Kandace, the approach is one which has to be carefully assessed. We want to bring about a result of change and reverse. So when these, especially the school intervention, when they go to the school and we do the assessment, based on the assessment is how we approach the situation. If we need to engage the parent, we engage the parent. The assessment goes a long way in treating with the situation because more often than not, the child, him or herself, doesn't even recognize what is causing the problem. Now, another thing we have realized within the situation with these children, they have a lot to say, but there's no adult to listen to them. And this is a barrier that causes the child to seek other avenues of acceptance, other avenues of wanting and belonging. And this is disruptive.
And it goes back into the ideology of us as human beings. We need to be heard. We need to feel loved. It is part of who we are.
Right.
But when we're seeing this happening to our children, when some of our children are just being left alone, then they're ending up in situations where violence takes over.
Yeah, because you see, the sense of belonging and wanting to be loved, they are finding that outside. You find that from a friend in school. You find that from a male of your same age, and you see, or a female of the same age, and we find ourselves in situations that the children are becoming adults, so to speak, faster than before. Children are developing physically much faster than before. Whether it's based on the food they eat or what happened, they are developing faster, even mentally, physically. So how do we, as a society, fits in and assists them to understand this type of development.
Now, I know that the police, in terms of the police youth clubs, have been doing some remarkable work, especially here in Tobago. And I mean, while that is one tool that has been working in some areas, there's still a lot to be done. Is there anything else or any other sort of intervention that the Special Victims Unit is making with some of these young people on our island?
Well, with the school intervention team, there are referrals based on the assessments. There's continued welfare visits and checks with the families and the students at school and at home. And if it comes a case that we need to refer a child, we refer that child and continue to follow the referral to see what is going on with the child. It's not just a one-off situation.
And are you considering any other methods at this point in time?
Well, Kandace, the stakeholder approach, the multi-sector approach is what we are looking at right now. And together with the other agencies, we are hoping to develop a policy, the Department of Education, the police, children court, the habilitative center. We are hoping to partner together to assist these children in how they treat with the situations.
And what's interesting, so when the situation happened at Signal Hill Secondary just last week, the question that a lot of people asked was, where was the police and so on. But when you talk to the teachers and so on, and specifically I'm going to be quoting Mr. Braden Roberts here from Tutor, and he said you could have 1,000 police officers stationed at the school, but a student, if they are so motivated, is still going to find a way to be violent.
Yes, Kandace, that is so true, but it may minimize. Now, the issue is not the police in the first instance. The estate officer or the security guard on the compound has a responsibility. If the situation is beyond them, they will call the police for assistance. But the first response is from the officer on the compound. Now, in addition to which, we have to find a way to teach the children how to deal not only with conflict resolution, but how to dissolve before it reaches that conflict, how to recognize the triggers that would lead you into a situation. We keep talking conflict resolution, but resolution is after something happens. How do we train or identify with these minors to have them know how to diffuse, how to calm down, how to walk away, how to see something is about to happen and not allow it to get into you? This is an important part. We would not have the conflict resolution situation if we teach them how to diffuse a situation.
And how do we go about doing that?
Kandace, it all comes down to going back to the basics like respect, manners, understanding authority, giving the children tasks, keeping timelines, restructuring the institution in such a way that we are not only tailoring the academic, we are also tailoring the lifestyle for after school. We have to try to inculcate into some subjects lifestyle tutorship. It's not only math and English, because all the children is not going to be academically inclined. We have to do the assessment from the primary level, and once we recognize that some child or this child may not be so academically inclined at the primary level, how do we tailor this child or push them in a direction for them to understand their talent, gifts, and abilities so they can contribute meaningfully to society? It may be technical, vocational. So an assessment is needed of the student constantly, not only for academic, but also for lifestyle choices and so on.
And certainly a lot of things to think about. And coming out, especially from everything that you've said this morning, is that need for that multi-stakeholder approach, that need for us to really embrace that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes, it does, because the police alone can't do it. Education alone can't do it. The principal at the school alone can't do it. The teacher in the class cannot do it. We have to come together. We have to go back to the root cause of the problem. And we have to try to find possible solutions in which you can channel these children to reverse the situation. It's not irreversible. If you look at the school population, the children that what we say seem to be the troubled children is in the minority. But how do we capture them early enough to treat with them to reverse the situation? And to not allow them to disrupt the entire school population. Because when one incident happens, it affects the whole school population.
Certainly.
And it affects the whole of the island, because another school is looking at it and saying, "Well, what is happening here? How do we avoid this?" But it's happening in all schools. Some schools don't speak about it, but it happens.
Certainly. I want to thank you so much, Officer Miller, for being here and giving us your perspective. And we continue to support the work that you are doing out there with the Special Victims Unit as you work with all the stakeholders to make that necessary intervention with our students.
Thank you, Kandace.
All right, viewers. Well, that's how we're going to wrap this segment, but we're not quite done with GMT yet. We've got more after this break.
The energy filled the sky.